In 1942, 75,000 people moved into a brand new American city that did not exist on any map.
It consumed more electricity than New York City and produced thousands of tons of mysterious smoke every day. Thousands of workers were paid weekly wages without ever knowing what product they were actually manufacturing.
If you mentioned the name of the machine you operated, armed guards would escort you out within 15 minutes.
Inside the misty ridges of eastern Tennessee, the United States government carved a metropolis out of raw mud and secrecy.
The top-secret base was officially named Oak Ridge, but military intelligence simply referred to it as Site X.
To the outside world, it was empty woodland.
To the War Department, it was humanity's ultimate secret weapon project.
Behind miles of electrified fences, ordinary citizens lived completely normal lives in the shadow of absolute destruction. They shopped at grocery stores, bowled on weekend evenings, fell in love, and raised their newborn children.
All while walking past colossal concrete monolithic factories that shook the very earth beneath their feet 24 hours a day.
None of them knew that within 3 short years, their work would culminate in the birth of the atomic bomb.
In the autumn of 1942, the quiet farming communities of Anderson County, Tennessee, received a devastating surprise. Handwritten and stamped eviction notices were nailed without warning to front gates, church doors, and family barns. Generations of farmers were given just weeks, and in some cases only 48 hours, to pack and leave forever. Century-old family homesteads and log cabins were immediately bulldozed into splintered timber and burnt to the ground. Historic country churchyards and family graves were roped off and declared strictly off-limits under military law.
General Leslie Groves, head of the Manhattan Project, had personally chosen this remote valley for 3 critical reasons.
The natural mountain ridges provided natural blast walls if an experimental industrial reactor exploded. Second, the nearby Norris Dam and Tennessee Valley Authority could supply the astronomical electrical power required. And third, the location was so remote and isolated that foreign spies could never find it on a map. With the stroke of a military pen, 60,000 acres of American countryside were erased from state registries.
The stage was set for the fastest and most clandestine construction project in modern human history.
Within weeks, the silent forest transformed into a roaring industrial nightmare of diesel fumes, mud, and steel. More than 20,000 construction workers arrived by train from every corner of the United States. They worked 12-hour shifts around the clock, battling freezing torrential rains and knee-deep red clay. Locals quickly nicknamed the sticky, unyielding terrain the atomic sludge because it swallowed boots and truck tires whole.
Entire neighborhoods of prefabricated wooden houses were delivered on flatbed trailers and assembled in hours.
A house could be an empty mud pit at sunrise, and a fully furnished home with running water by evening. To keep the restless workers moving, wooden boardwalks were built over miles of mud to connect every district. Enormous community mess halls were erected, serving tens of thousands of meals every single day.
Giant movie theaters, sports fields, and bowling alleys were rapidly constructed to keep morale from collapsing.
Temporary barracks and trailer parks stretched as far as the eye could see across the Tennessee ridges. Yet throughout this entire massive build-out, not a single construction worker was ever told what the buildings were for. In less than 1 year, Site X had grown from empty wilderness into the 5th largest city in Tennessee. To protect the project, the military transformed Oak Ridge into a virtually impenetrable armed fortress. The entire 30-mile perimeter was encircled by electrified fencing, guard towers, and armed military patrols. Only 9 heavily guarded gates allowed entrance, and every single vehicle was dismantled and searched. Every resident, from world-renowned nuclear physicists to 18-year-old cafeteria staff, wore color-coded security badges. If your badge was green, you were barred from entering orange zones. If it was blue, red zones were forbidden.
Huge painted billboards were posted on every street corner, reminding residents that walls had ears. What you see here, what you do here, what you hear here, when you leave here, let it stay here. Undercover FBI agents and counterintelligence spies were embedded in every level of daily city life, They listened to conversations in movie theater lobbies, bowling alleys, grocery aisles, and church pews. All private mail leaving the city was intercepted, opened, and censored with heavy black markers. Phone calls were randomly tapped, and telephone operators were ordered to disconnect calls at the first hint of forbidden words. If an employee was caught asking what the plants were producing, they were loaded onto a midnight bus and vanished. Beyond the living quarters stood the colossal industrial leviathans, where physics met industrial titanism. The crown jewel of this secret empire was a building known simply as K25. At 4 stories tall and half a mile long, K25 was the single largest building under one roof in world history. It was so vast that supervisors were issued bicycles just to deliver paperwork between production wings. Inside K25, a revolutionary gaseous diffusion process separated the rare uranium-235 from raw uranium gas. Thousands of miles of airtight nickel-plated pipes pumped highly corrosive uranium hexafluoride gas without a single leak.
The machinery operated under such high vacuum that even a microscopic leak would have ruined months of scientific work.
Workers inside walked through cavernous halls, completely isolated within their tiny assigned workstations. Just miles away, another secret facility was built, the X-10 Graphite Reactor. X-10 was the world's first continuously operating nuclear reactor. Designed by legendary physicist Enrico Fermi, operators pushed uranium metal slugs into graphite channels using long wooden poles through concrete shielding. Inside the core, the very first microscopic pinches of weapons-grade plutonium in human history were born. While K25 and X-10 refined isotopes by gas and reaction, a third plant took on an even more radical mission. Was Y12, an electromagnetic separation plant housing enormous machines called calutrons. With millions of young American men drafted into war in Europe and the Pacific, the military faced a labor crisis.
To operate these ultra-complex machines, the government recruited thousands of young women straight out of high school. They came from small, rural farming towns across Tennessee, Kentucky, Georgia, and Alabama, seeking factory wages. These young women would go down in history as the legendary calutron girls. For 8 hours a day, they sat on tall wooden stools, staring unblinkingly at complex analog control panels. They had no understanding of nuclear physics, atomic fission, or the purpose of the strange machines they operated. Their training was simple. If a gauge needle swung left, turn a dial right. If a red light flashed, flick a switch.
Elite physicists with PhDs from Berkeley and Princeton were initially brought in to run the calutron cubicles.
Yet astonishingly, the young Tennessee farm girls consistently outperformed the world's top scientists in production output. While scientists tried to analyze every glitch, the girls simply followed their orders with flawless discipline. Because the average age of Oak Ridge residents was only 27, the secret city brimmed with youthful vitality.
On Saturday nights, dance halls echoed with big band swing music as couples forgot the stress of the war.
Softball leagues, roller skating rinks, and symphony orchestras sprang up inside this enclosed military bubble. Yet the bizarre nature of their secret existence was impossible to escape in everyday life. The chemical mud was so acidic that women discovered it dissolved their nylon stockings on the walk to work.
Every baby born in the Oak Ridge Hospital had a bizarre detail printed on their official birth certificate.
The place of birth was listed not as Oak Ridge, but as a generic post office box. P.O. Box 487, Knoxville. Tens of thousands of people lived, worked, married, and died inside a ghost city that officially did not exist. On the sweltering morning of August 6, 1945, day shift workers arrived at the factory gates as usual.
At 11 o'clock, public address speakers across every cafeteria, plant, and street corner crackled to life.
The voice of President Harry S. Truman echoed across the valley from thousands of miles away.
16 hours ago, an American airplane dropped one bomb on Hiroshima. It is an atomic bomb.
It is a harnessing of the basic power of the universe, the force from which the sun draws its power.
Military trucks sped through the streets, throwing out special editions of the Oak Ridge Journal newspaper. For the first time in 3 long years, the 75,000 workers finally understood what they had built.
The microscopic grains of dust they had refined day and night had just incinerated an entire city in a single flash.
The devastating weapon they created brought World War II to an abrupt end, but opened a terrifying new atomic era.
In 1949, the military gates swung open, and Oak Ridge was finally unveiled and placed onto official American maps.
Today, the monumental factories stand quiet under the green Tennessee canopy, permanent monuments to human ingenuity and terror.
If this secret history fascinated you, hit subscribe and let us know what forgotten mystery we should uncover next.